wrong. The other thing we find is when people put loft conversions on, suddenly they're putting an extra load onto that wall, and very often when I've done loft conversions, they've asked for us to do a little foundation dig where we dig a few holes around the foundation so that the surveyor can come along and see just how far the foundations go down. And a lot of the time in old buildings, in my house, there aren't any foundations. It was built brick on earth. It's just slightly wider bricks. Spread of course is there. It's just stuck straight down on the sand. A lot of people would be alarmed by that, but in actual fact, it's been there for over 100 years. It hasn't moved, it hasn't cracked. It's unlikely to crack in the future unless there's something like a leaking drain. So very important, by the way, that you go around, you just check your drains are working properly. But I always say to people, go and walk around your house when it's pouring with rain, because you learn a lot. Grab an umbrella, walk around the outside of your house and just see what's happening, because sometimes you find there's overflowing gutters where the water's just pouring up over it. And the first thing you know about it is you suddenly got a crack in the building because you've got a leaking drain, or you've just had water pouring down there, saturating a bit of ground, washing a bit of ground away, and it's undermined your foundations, or in my case, your lack of foundations. You also get cracks sometimes when you've got a neighbour who starts doing an extension right next to your house. They get a bit too greedy and then they start undermining the foundations. When I was an emergency plumber, got a call and he said to me, can you come out? We've gone for a water main. Back in those days, they didn't have the kind of provisions they got now where you could simply screw a coupling on and repair it yourself. So he needed my skill, my expertise, if you like, in using a blow lamp and lead to repair the water main. I said to him, all right, I'll come round there and have a look at it. All these guys were running around with acros and boards, and I said, what's happening? And he said, just stay there for a minute. I stood there in the back garden, and the owner of the house was also standing in the back garden. The whole of the back end of the house was parting company with the main bit. There was a crack appearing all the way down here, and it was moving outwards, and you could hear it creaking like the ship's timbers. Very alarming to watch, and the guy who owned the house was also alarmed by it. What these guys had done is they were doing some underpinning because there had been a small crack there. So they were doing the underpinning, taking away sections of the ground, pouring in concrete, and when that concrete sets, you then take out the bit in between. They give you a dig schedule for it, and the inspector comes around and looks. But these guys thought, oh, we can do this whole job in a week rather than 2 weeks, and they dug out a bit more than they should have to try and pour the concrete in. Obviously, they overdid it, and the house started to move, and they ran round and they put in acros all round the outside of the house into the trench on bits of board just to stop this house from moving away so they could pour the concrete basically and underpin it. Little things like that. If you get underpinners in, if they're good underpinners, they will do the job properly and they will stop that happening. That crack opened up, that building was like that, and they didn't push it back. They just left it there, filled the crack in, straightened the floors back up. That was how it is to this day. So there's a lot more to say about cracking, but that's just a brief overview. If you see an internal crack, it's very likely to be something like superficial movement, a bit of internal shrinkage. Don't spend sleepless nights worrying about cracks in your buildings. If they look like they're starting to get serious, get some professional advice. They will come around and put little telltales on it, and they will monitor the crack over the course of several months to see what's happening. If you're going to do a DIY job on a crack yourself, just bear in mind what I said about not making matters worse. I'm Roger Bisbee. I hope you found that brief overview of cracks illuminating. And if you've got any crack problems, send us some photographs. We'd love to see a good crack.